The podcast and queers who forget about struggling to adult, they're struggling to human.
At least that's what everyone's telling us.
You're right.
Per usual. But seriously, I'm Angela. People call me Mama Pistachio, bringing sense to the conversation. I help individuals and organizations cultivate skills, spaces, and confidence to advocate for themselves and each other.
And I'm Molly, giving a big fork you to cookie cutter solutions. I help busy as fuck neurodivergent entrepreneurs make shit happen by bringing stability to their businesses while helping them do what makes sense to their brain.
Enough with the chit chat. Let's get down to business. What's the frickin' point?
With our powers combined, we navigate life through the drudgery, dreams, and all that shit in between. Plus, we were already having these conversations anyway, so why not record them, right?
Alrighty then. Get ready to call bullshit on what everyone's saying you should be doing as we navigate the spectrum between what your heart wants and the shit keeping you from it.
Hi, everybody!
Hi!
Good
morning!
Like,
I know, and I'm sitting here, okay, there's one of the videos on our intro is like perfectly in front of my face this morning, and it's the person typing, and they're like, I'm like, oh yes, I feel this. I feel this right here.
Oh my God. But yeah, like it gets me in like, I'll like, oh yeah, we're gonna do that podcast. Like it hypes me up before we get in here.
Yeah.
So hello everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of Drudgery, Dreams, and in Between. We're so excited for you to be here with us. This week is a conversation about workforce and business and all the shit in between. So
yeah, all the work stuff.
Yes.
Which you can't take the personal out of that, right? Like
no.
Life and work go hand in hand. Oftentimes we compartmentalize, and you know, that whole work-life balance thing that is bullshit. I don't believe in it. We can get into that another time. But work and life, they go together, not apart. They are not separate things.
Mm-mm. No. And we were having this conversation this morning because today was one of those days where my depression is just painful, like physically painful, emotionally painful too, but like physically painful. And
yeah, your exact words, because I wrote them down.
Oh, okay.
Was I'm probably going to cry today. My depression is so bad it hurts.
Yes, it's true. Like we were like prepping for the episode and I'm like, like on the verge of tears, just trying to like talk through what we're going to talk about. Which normally I'm just very pragmatic about. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. If I had a typical job, I would have called out today. Like
today, Molly is not peopling.
I know it's a not people day. Thank God I was like, well, at least I don't have to go anywhere today. Tomorrow I have to people. I'm not going anywhere today.
But that's the great thing about working for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right? You are still going to be productive, which helps your depression.
Yes. And technically I was productive today because I didn't have to think about what needed to be done because I have systems in place that make it so that my client tasks are pre-organized on my schedule, attached to tasks and all the things I need for those tasks. So even though I had zero want to work today or do anything, I put my kiddo on the bus. I came to my office and I was like, it's monotonous. Let me just do it. And I just did it really quick. And I'm very efficient when I do have those processes in place because I know what to do and I can do it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to like analyze it. I don't have to come up with some quirky phrase half the time because it's already done and ready to go.
Right.
And so I've actually already accomplished like an hour and a half of work today, even though that was the least thing that was on the list. And I did take a shower.
Okay, this is good. We know that water is something that helps you regulate your nervous system. So that's something that helps you regulate your nervous system. Just so that people who are listening, I know that doesn't help everybody regulate theirs because it doesn't help me regulate mine. But Molly is a water baby and it does help her. So with that, just a second of talking about those processes. You helped me with processes because I am a very streamlined person and I have to have things in a checklist and all of that. And sometimes that means that I don't like to let go of control,
Mm,
which means if I am using a system like Dubsado, where it will do the workflow for me, I can get stuck in designing the process because it's not exactly how I would do it if I were doing it myself, which would lead me then to spending a whole lot of time doing each one of those steps individually so that I could hold on to control of it,
yeah.
knowing that it's going to be done my way. So you helped me a great deal with that. Um, and we sat down and worked out, you listened to me, like, how do you see this? And then you said, okay, this is what it's going to look like in the workflow. Um, and that is one of your, like, great, amazing things that you were able to do,
Mhm.
which helped to put my mind at ease and made me feel safe using something that helped my productivity.
Yeah, and it's something that I I make a lot of analogies to a spider web, which is very ironic due to the fact that I am like arachnophobic. But um, I can see, like, most people can see the center of the spider web and like the edge on either side, So this is their A, and they're like, it's either going to be B, C, D, or E, or whatever, or Z, whatever. And I can see how every intricate little thing connects
Yeah.
to make that web stay together and become more stable.
Right.
Um, and it took me a long time to realize that other people do not see that.
Right.
Um, but it allows me to like explain, I know that you want this end goal. I know that you want it to feel like this. I know you want it to feel like you sent that email, or, that you personally added that thing to your calendar. So how can we make it sound like you did that and do this? Or, add things to the workflows that make things feel more personal or not personal for people who just don't give a
And
shit.
right. And authentic, right? You want it to be
Right.
authentic. You want it to be part of you. And not everybody who does a job needs that.
No.
But the fact of the matter is, having that kind of thing in place and knowing what things are out there to support you as a neurodivergent entrepreneur is essential,
Mm-hmm.
because there are days where we don't have the energy to put in, and we beat ourselves up big time um, when we feel like we are not productive. A lot of that is because we have had people tell us our whole lives, you're lazy, you're messed up, or what's wrong with you, or you can't do this. And we know that that's not true. Some of us are perfectionists, and some of us have this desire and this need to prove ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where productivity can become uh, toxic, if you will, and why people are so averse to the term productivity. But you know me, me and words. Uh,
I mean,
I love the word productivity, and I think that productivity is one of those things that we have to have. It is a basic human need to feel a connection with our community by doing something with, for, or within that community. If that's not productivity, I don't know what is. Right.
I mean,
So
yeah.
right. So for anybody who's listening to this, Molly's just sitting there shaking her head,
Oh, sorry,
like,
guys.
yeah, duh. So productivity, like, today, knowing that while you may not be able to sit down and people and do some of the things that maybe you wanted to do today, you are not being unproductive. You're not leaving your business behind.
Mm-hmm.
Does that not allow you to keep some energy to either ask for support or do the care that you need to do in order to move through the day and do all the things, right?
Yes. And I think also for me, productive changes day to day. Like my like success, I guess, is maybe a better comparison, is how I perceive being productive one day is not necessarily the same on the next day.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to pretend like there aren't days that I don't get things done, like the business things. Some days my business does get left behind because it's more important for me to do something else. I do have a process to easily move things to another day
Right.
so that I can do things. But yes, having done the pre-work of scheduling tasks does give me enough energy to get something done. And on days like this, something makes me feel like I did a good job.
Right.
If that something was I sat on the couch and I read a book or I surfed TikTok that day, like some days that's okay and that's productive because I needed that in some capacity. Because I do feel like a lot of entrepreneurs who are neurodivergent or business people in general, like people who work, neurodivergent
Right.
people,
Right.
I think we get hung up in we aren't operating like people normally do.
Right.
And so then we're like, we just aren't doing enough, which uh, the neurodivergent folks that I know in my life, we already operate about 200% compared to like the neurotypical people in our life. So if we're operating at 50% of our functioning, we're at normal 100% for other people.
Right. Right. But people don't see that. They don't
No.
they don't see that. And um, so across the board, and this is not only something that affects neurodivergent people. Let's address the queer aspect for a little bit. Being queer puts us in a position often where we have to work harder to prove ourselves to other people that we are worthy of or equal to. Let me give you an example of this. I'm having a conversation with Jordan, and I say, "It's because I'm queer." And he responds, "It's not because you're queer, it's because you look queer." Now, that sounds really harsh. But first of all, he is very direct in the way he speaks. But there was nothing harsh about it. That's the fact of the matter. If I were presenting as if I went in full like femme mode and looked like a hetero cisgender woman walking into a place, people wouldn't make an assumption about my sexuality. But
Right.
because I don't present in that manner, um, my people make assumptions, and those assumptions create roadblocks,
Right.
whether we like it or not. So as we are talking about this, we're going to throw in some stuff about being queer as well. Um, because of course, when I looked up statistics and all of that, uh, that that matters. And there's also that intersectionality that we've talked about in the past.
Right.
Often we have both at the same time happening. So transgender, 60 to 80% unemployment. Autistic, 60 to 80% unemployment, up to 85% unemployment. And now this is or under employment for these categories, right? ADHD, we're looking at 17% lower income than neurotypical counterparts. Um, a study in Tourette's, 70% of the participants in that study were unemployed, 10% part time, and 20% employed full time. Um, so, and now that's just employment. And I really like this. What Catherine Buckley says. I feel like I did not pronounce her name correctly. It might be Buckley. Um, Neurotypical people order their thoughts and communicate ideas in the most typical way. They enjoy a privilege that comes from living in a world that favors and is built for this specific neurology. Why I like that so much is there's a reason why so many neurodivergent folks choose to work for themselves. One of those reasons is because the workforce, the culture of the workforce in general, is not friendly to neurodivergent ways of thinking. Whether that's dyslexic thinking, whether it's because of dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, ADHD, autism, Tourette's, doesn't matter. It's not friendly. So we have that reason, but we also have what's another reason why so many neurodivergent folks choose to work from home.
Because they don't have any other choice.
Right. And that has been your experience, right? Like
Yeah.
that was your experience. Can you tell us a
Right.
little bit about your experience and why working from home was the only choice you had?
So, we've talked about this a little bit, and it's on the little slide in the intro. But I was in the Air Force, and I found out in the Air Force that I had all of this mental health stoof. And it was affecting my job, because when you have outside pressures that are controlling your life and you have zero control and you're neurodivergent and you can't figure out how to make your brain work the way they work, or like your body to function the way they work, and how the hell are these people doing all these things? Nothing made sense. You start to just lose yourself. And so eventually I was medically retired. Well, and in that interim, I like had some entrepreneurial mindset, in the sense that I had scarcity mindset. And obviously I was not making enough money, even though both my husband and I were active duty military and we were making plenty of money. I needed more money because we obviously didn't have any. If you could see my eyeballs, I'm rolling them and being very sarcastic. And so I did things like Pampered Chef and Mary Kay. Now, like, I do enjoy some fun kitchen gadgets. I am not a makeup person. The Mary Kay thing didn't really make sense in the long run, but I did those things. And so when I got out, I was like, I'm going to earn a pink Cadillac. No. When you are doing something so opposite of who you are as a person, like, I jokingly say this all the time, but it actually is true. Skirts make me hostile. Dresses make me hostile. It is not, I need fabric on the legs, like in between the legs. There needs
You can
to
do
be
you can
crotch
do
material.
a romper just fine.
I can do rompers just fine, but there is crotch material. Anyway, I feel like that's somehow going to be a quote. Anyway. So, I was wearing skirts and makeup and like so worried about everything I said and did. And my depression and anxiety and everything got so bad, to the point that I was like, what's the word? Involuntarily admitted, due to depression. And when I say involuntary, like, they didn't even tell my husband they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and after that, I couldn't drive. I was agoraphobic. I literally just sat on a couch and played The Sims. That's the only thing I could do. Live my lesbian fantasies in The Sims and make people do things and like have lives. And one day I was like,
You're meeting your productivity needs.
I was.
And getting your community, like you were getting the community care that you needed through The Sims. And
Yes.
people who are listening, some are going to be like, yes, exactly, I get that. And some others are going to be like, no, that's not how it works. Go look up geek therapy and understand how games and mental health go hand in hand and how it can be a really positive thing.
Yes. And I was going therapy through all of this. To be fair, I got put on Seroquel. I gained a whole bunch of weight because I was only eating pounds of pasta every day. And I just was not healthy and I knew it. And so I was like, this has to change. And it wasn't because I wanted to start a business and I was like, yay, let's start a business and be like super cool entrepreneur person. No, I was like, I need something. I need to like real life things. I need a real life thing. And so I started Beauty Bright Design, which literally I chose that because the domain was available and it didn't sound awful. And I started a stationery business, which has grown and evolved into Revolution Paper Co., which is my wedding stationery design boutique for queer couples.
Which is much more authentic to you.
Oh, yes. I mean,
Right, because when you first started,
yes.
it has to be this way and it has to fit in this box. Hi.
Right.
Anybody can go look at my Instagram account and watch the progression of me trying to inject myself into something that where I was not being authentic to me in any
Yeah.
way, shape, or form until now, and I have it exactly like I want it. Thank you, Molly.
Like, and same thing. Like, if you scroll all the way back to Revolution Paper Co. in the beginning, it wasn't queer focused, mostly because I evidently had not told anybody that I was queer. All my brand colors were like pink and teal and like gold, which I do love gold. Don't get me wrong. And I am
This has
one of
to
those.
be woman. It has to be woman, and woman means this, and ew. Yeah.
And like everything was like pink and lacy or like, no offense if you like pink and lace, but
It's great if you really
and
like it. If that's really who
yes,
you are, awesome.
it's just not me. And I am one of those people, like, I literally live my brand. Like, my brand is me. And so I was wearing all
As
of
it
that,
should
like
be.
pink pants and
Oh, Molly.
like Ann Taylor. And I had the giant, like, you see, well, if you're watching this, you can see that my bun is more Mary than like Mary Sanderson than Mary Kay. And I had like the big giant like perfect little bun with like makeup and everything. And eventually I was just like, this is killing me. I didn't like anything I was designing. It was all good. I just didn't like it because it wasn't me. And I started working towards helping queer couples with their stationery, and it worked really well. And eventually I realized that people suck at business. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs are in the same boat. People started businesses not because they know anything about business or how to run a business or any of those things. They started it because they had no other option, but they're really good artists, or they had no other option and they are really good at writing, all of these things, and they bring amazing skill sets, but they can't do all the shit that also needs to happen to become a viable, sustainable business. I'm not even saying successful, guys. I'm saying viable, sustainable business that isn't going to kill them. And I mean that literally for a lot of these people. And so I had people asking me to help, and that's how I started where I am now in brand strategy. I like pulled all the skills that I had from the Air Force and from my time in manufacturing and like all of these things. And even in Mary Kay, to do what I do now. But like, yeah, it was not a journey of this sounds fun, let's do this. And so I'm always telling people, like, you might want to think about becoming an entrepreneur if you're upset with these things. If you have tried to fit in the box and it's not you, and you are struggling and you're miserable, then you might need to be an entrepreneur of necessity.
Yeah.
Like, people always think of like like even the big names that we know, like the Silicon Valley tech people, they did not start a business because they were like, hey, this sounds fun. Almost all of them dropped out of school because they just couldn't handle it.
Right.
For whatever reason. They didn't fit in, they didn't do whatever. Like, we
Yeah.
don't think about the fact that a lot of these big companies started out of necessity, not out of want. So I guess this is a good place to, you guys get to hear my transitions out loud today. This is a good way to transition into like what happens if you realize, well, fuck me. I guess I need to start a business. There are some key things to think about if you're kind of in that boat and you want to start doing that. If you have the privilege of having some free time to like do your job and your business at the same time, because let's be honest, that's a privilege for a lot of people that they don't realize is a privilege.
Right.
Do that first. Try and make it so that you can have a smoother transition where you can start to get sustainable work and kind of prove to yourself that this is a viable option to move forward with, because that knowledge of like, oh, I've kind of got my shit together in this sense, can help. If you do not have that privilege because you are not currently employed, or somebody just decided that you are no longer employed, against your will, don't, I don't want to say don't overthink, because half of us can't stop that.
Well, how about this? Don't overthink your inability to have a viable, sustainable business.
Correct. Yes,
right?
that's where I was trying to go.
Like, go ahead and overthink the other stuff, because sometimes that works for you and that's how your brain works. So go ahead and overthink that. What we don't want you to overthink is, because we've done this ourselves, and we have each other to go to talk about this. And we would love to hear your comments on that too, because it takes a community, right? We often don't overthink our ability to do something. We overthink our inability to do something. And I'm not going to call that imposter syndrome, because I have a lot to say about imposter syndrome and what I believe about it. And that's another episode all in itself. But it's along those lines,
Yes.
where we are our own worst enemy.
Yes. Well, and like that was something that you and I had talked through a while ago, is I build tools and literal tools like Excel documents and systems for people daily, and almost everybody has a different thing, or they start with a template, but we use it differently for each person. And I was like, I need passive income, which I do know, and if you follow me, you would know that passive income does not mean no effort. To be
there's
clear,
a lot of effort there.
There's a lot of effort. And Angela was like, you already have this shit built. Yeah. Why aren't you selling it? And so that was one of those things of like, I was overthinking it, because I was like, I need to do this in order to do that. I need to do this instead of that. And so even I, not that I am a perfect entrepreneur, was like overthinking the steps that had to be done to do something, when in reality, it's already overthought through and really good in the state that it's in.
You were overthinking the steps, but also undervaluing all of the stuff that you had done, because it just happened naturally for you, which for a lot of neurodivergent folks, it is. How many people have you talked to, Molly, that have an entire freaking Etsy store sitting there? And I know you don't love Etsy, but this is a good segue into that type of entrepreneurship for people who are creative, and they have rooms full of their creations. And then they come and they say, I need to make money. I am doing all of these things. I have to do something that I'm passionate about, or else it's not going to last. And I'm doing this and I don't know what to do. Can I make this work? And the answer there is yes, you can.
Right.
So how can somebody who maybe has that or has been thinking about it, how can they be successful and have a viable, successful business that doesn't kill them?
Right. So a lot of times, most of the people that I talk to in this boat are like ADHD hyper focused folks who like couldn't get an idea out of their head, so they literally stayed up all night drawing it on whatever program or by hand, and now they're like, yeah, I just spent 15 hours doing this thing and I have nothing to show for it. All right, well, you could turn that 15 hours of designing that thing into t-shirts, bags, blankets, wall art, like whatever, through drop shipping, which literally means scan the thing that you made, or if it's already digital, upload it to a site like Printify, which is not connected. I mean, you can connect it to Shopify, but it is not owned by Shopify.
Right.
Well,
You get the choice to not participate with
yes.
Shopify. And for those people who don't want to do the emotional labor, the reason that I'm going to speak for myself here, the reason that I do not support Shopify is because they have refused to not allow libs of TikTok um, to continue posting their stuff across the site. They say that it doesn't violate their terms and conditions, but actually it does because it harms. They're 100% anti-trans, and they are very harmful to the queer community. And Shopify,
Yeah.
emotional labor done for you. Feel free to ask questions if you would like. But Printify does not have to be hooked up to Shopify. It has lots of other options.
Right. Like WooCommerce, uh, which is a WordPress thing. Anyway,
They also hook up to Etsy, right?
oh yeah, they hook up to Etsy.
Yeah.
And the reason Angela mentioned this, the reason I'm not a huge fan of Etsy is because the amount of fees that they take. Now,
Yep.
mind you, you can rope your fees into your pricing, and you should be doing that.
Yes.
But it does not make economical sense for a lot of people trying to sell a sticker to sell it for $15 just so they can make a profit off a sticker. And
so that Etsy can have some of that money. Right.
I mean, Etsy does bring some things to the table, like they market for a lot of people and like all of that stuff. But anyway,
right. And they're having a thing right now for that, right? Like
right,
40%, blah, 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 blah.
They pay 40% of the advertising if you do advertising through Etsy in your store. Anyway, you can upload something to like Printify where it prints on demand for you. They ship the item to the person for you. And there's like a lot of wholesale companies that do this. So if you are like, hey, I'm getting into stationery because I want to send fuck you cards to everybody, you can do that.
Sometimes we want to do that.
Print on demand companies like Printswell Fulfillment, which is what I use for all of my stationery. Well, most of my stationery. That is a great option for that as well. So that is something that can be done. If you are selling Excel documents or building apps because you were up all night figuring out a way to do those things, Creative Market is great. AppSumo can be a good option for a lot of people that you can just like upload your shit and they kind of walk you through the process. Yeah. Like there are so many ways to sell things. In addition to just creating a shop on Facebook and connecting it to your Instagram account, and people can shop directly on your Instagram and or Facebook account. Like there are so many ways to make money quickly in a viable way that is not expending additional resources. Now, having said all this, even if it like seems like passive income, like I'm going to just throw it up on my website, build it, they will come, does not work the way a lot of people think it works.
Yeah.
You actually have to talk about what you're selling. Like I don't talk about a lot of things, and a lot of people do not know that I provide them because I don't talk about them. That's my point. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you do landing pages?" I'm like,
no. I think I am great example of this, right?
Okay. Yes.
I am a great example of somebody who doesn't go out and talk about all of it. So a lot of people don't know what I do, how I do it, all of that stuff. Because I don't like that aspect. I really don't like the aspect of quote unquote selling myself, which is really funny because I did MLM, multi level marketing, for years and was wildly successful with it because I had no problem selling myself. I had no problem whatsoever talking about the unique foundation and how it supports women who um, experienced sexual abuse before the age of 18, and talking about that and putting on the makeup and every single day doing live videos and all of this. And I was wildly successful. And then I also did LuLaRoe and I was wildly successful, but I worked my ass off. I worked so hard, so much harder in those than I ever did in any kind of day job. And I'm saying that because MLMs get a bad reputation, as some of them should, and there are reasons why. There are definitely reasons why for that. Um, at the same time, they are also some of them are good options for people, but these people cannot just go, "Oh, hey, I'm going to do this," and then just have it there. It is not something that you are
True.
going to just sit back and it's going to happen. It is a job and you have to work your ass off
Yes.
all the time.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm like thinking through all the things that, like, a lot of those things require the business know-how as much as it requires the business know-how for Angela and I to do what we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to have a client customer or a client provider like relationship. You have to build connection. You have to build rapport. You have to educate. You have to talk about the things that they need to know, why this works and why this won't work. Like, there is all of that: email communication, text messages, checking in on people, having a client experience. All of those things are still valid in MLM.
Yeah, it's so much peopling.
Too much peopling.
It is so much peopling. Which is great for some people. There are plenty of people who are listening who are neurodivergent folks who are going to be like, "Yes, I love peopling, and this gives me energy, and this is an energy gaining thing." Awesome. But with that said, don't choose that route because you think it's going to be easier than creating something for yourself that you love with the skills that you have and your art and your talents and your skills and your, whether, maybe it's like administrative assistant kind of stuff and these amazing skills that you have that you are just putting on the back burner because, well, that's just who I am. Yeah, that's easy. That's not a job. Yes, it is. And so many of us have these skills inherently that we just don't even recognize. So we're
And
pointing it out to you right here. We're
yes.
pointing it out.
Well, and like, I had a conversation with somebody last week, and they said, I don't want to do this thing that brings me joy and relaxes me, because if I monetize it, I'm scared I won't love it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which I actually get that a lot. I hear that a lot. But I'm going to counterpoint this one. We are told that we have to hate work. We are told that we have to hate doing what we do for work. And we are told that we don't get to make any rules about what we do for work.
Mm-hmm.
Systemically.
Yeah.
But the reality is, as a neurodivergent human, continuing to try and do something we don't love, and even if you're neurotypical, a lot of people, it's going to slowly destroy you, because you are not giving yourself the opportunity to have joy throughout your day. Like, to do something that fills you up and is an energy gainer, as Angela would say it.
Yep.
If you create a job for yourself that is something that you love, and you create rules for yourself to protect that, then you most likely, as long as you adhere to your rules and change the rules when you need to change them, you won't get burnt out by the thing that you love, because it's the thing that you love.
Yes. Like, okay, what
yes.
do I call that? What do I call that? Creating the rules for yourself, doing it the way you want to do it so that you can do the thing that you love. I have this term that I constantly use because it's consensual. You must have a consensual business.
Oh, okay. You're just going to have to say it because
I
I'm
am
now blank.
consensual. So I call this consensual entrepreneurship.
Oh,
because I know, Molly, you like throw this in my face all the time, right?
I know, I do.
you're like the first time I ever said that, you're like, you need to trademark that. Consider it trademarked. Consensual entrepreneurship, we are doing that because we are consenting to how we are going to work.
Right.
In our business. And let's be clear. Even if you're not going to have your own business, you can be consensual professionalism where you are deciding, I'm going to work in this way, I'm going to advocate for myself so that I have these things, and I'm going to have a choice in the matter because I have agency in this. And when we feel that we have agency in something, we are able to have those energy gaining moments.
Yes.
Which we must have or we'll burn out.
Right. And I just hate seeing people who have so much talent ignore the talent for the sake of they don't want to lose their talent.
Right.
And I see this a lot in, like, when you go to crafts. Okay, let's talk about craft fairs for a second. All of these people at the craft fairs hyper focus in like 6 weekends before the craft fair, after work, to do all these things. I'm going to make all of the floral rainbow thingies, or not rainbows, floral rainbows. Floral.
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, maybe. Floral displays or quilting or
all of these Halloween things because Halloween is coming up, and
or Christmas or whatever, ornament making. And then you show up to the craft fair and they're like 2 cents. It took me 18 hours. You can have it for $2. Okay. Y'all, you are now paying the customer to take the shit off your hands.
Yeah.
Because you love it and you feel like you aren't worth more because it's your hobby. I hate to fucking break it to you. It's not a hobby. You're at a fucking craft fair. It's a business.
Yep.
It's a hobby that you love, that is a business, that you're selling products. Please, for the love of freaking the universe, charge at least for the fucking materials it costs to make it. If you will not charge for your time, fine. I will be frustrated but continue on my merry way. But please charge for at least the materials it's costing you so you can pay for your hobby.
Right.
It drives me up a wall when I walk in and know that somebody spent 20 million hours on a quilt and they're selling it for $150, which is still less than the goddamn material.
Right. Right. Perfect example of that. My octopus hat.
Yes.
I have this friend who's amazing. Oh my gosh, she's amazing when it comes. She made me these cute little the Yip Yip guys from Sesame Street. She made me and I use them as bag holders in my kitchen, instead of those tubes that hold bags that are ugly, in my opinion. So I have these cute little Yip Yips, and the bags look like they're like tongues coming out of their mouth. Anyway, I asked her if she could make me an octopus hat. And she did. And I'm like, okay, how much is it going to be? And she gives me this ridiculous amount. She's like, And then she says, the materials are going to cost blah. I paid her double that. She didn't want to take it because it was for me and this and that. And I gave her, I was like, no, you're taking this. This is a tip, whatever you want to call it. And a whole bunch of people who saw it wanted it. And I messaged her. I said, don't you dare offer them that hat for anything less than what I paid you.
Right.
Don't you dare, because you are worth so much more.
Yes.
So much more.
I feel like I could go on this tangent forever.
But it's 7:45.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
not for you. It's 9:45. Anyway,
Yes.
There was so much more that we wanted to talk about on here. We'll have to bring it to another episode. We'll talk about work throughout stuff because there's so many opportunities for neurodivergent and queer folks who don't want to work in the public, business, professional sphere for whatever reason.
Yes.
I'm just going to leave that there. Anything else, Molly?
I mean, my brain keeps going, but I feel like we're good. I feel like that's a good start.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for listening to Drudgery, Dreams, and In Between, a weekly live podcast coming to you every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. Subscribe now wherever podcasts are found. If you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To catch all the latest from us, visit us at drudgeryanddreams.com and follow on your favorite social media platforms at Drudgery and Dreams. Thanks again. See you next time.